This week, we begin our week-long series, Inside Putin's Russia. With support from the Pulitzer Center on Crisis Reporting, special correspondent Nick Schifrin and producer Zach Fannin traveled to more than a dozen cities, conducted 40 interviews, and were arrested twice. They'll report later on Russian propaganda, Russia's opposition, Russians who join ISIS, and the tense relationship with the U.S. But the first story explores a new Russian identity. It's a combination of religion, old Russian traditions, and rediscovered patriotism. This new identity helps explain how people in today's Russia think, how President Putin acts, and why he remains popular. We begin in the southern city of Krasnodar.
It is Sunday morning in Russia's conservative south. More than 70% of Russians are Orthodox Christian, and under President Vladimir Putin, the church has been revitalized. Archpriest Ivan Garmash is known as Father John. He tells parishioners there's only one way to be a true Christian, and he says being a true Christian is the only way to be a true Russian.
The state and my faith are united. They can't be separated. The values of the church and the state coincide.
In Russia, faith is patriotic. The Orthodox Church criticizes liberal Western values as heresies, while Orthodox priests bless Russian weapons and endorse Putin politically and personally. The president's faith increases his popularity.
He is a religious man, and he takes part in the divine worship with the people in churches. What the president is doing, what the government is doing, of course we support it, because he acts conscientiously and truthfully.
Today's re-energized Orthodox Church helps create pride in a shared religion. And historic Russian symbols like Cossacks help create pride in shared traditions. 500 years ago, Cossacks became the Russian Tsar's henchmen. They were famous and feared and helped police the Russian Empire's borders. The Soviets persecuted them. Today's Russia restores them. Cossacks fill Krasnodar streets at an annual parade. They believe Russia should be governed by tradition, not the rule of law.
Only the nation that has kept its traditions and honors them more than the law deserves respect. The strength of a nation is in its traditions.
For 17 years, Vladimir Gromov led the regional Cossack army. He revitalized this event and helped get the Cossack state sponsorship. President Putin awarded him the Order of Friendship Medal. Gromov considers Putin the custodian of Russian pride and stability, preventing the chaos of the 1990s.
If it wasn't for President Putin, Russia as a state would be struggling through the toughest times now and possibly may have ceased to exist. Only Putin has saved the state from total collapse.
And in return, Cossacks do what they feel saves Putin. During the 2014 Olympics, the band Pussy Riot performed a song that disparages Putin. Cossacks unleashed their centuries-old tradition of vigilante violence. Last year, Cossacks doused the main opposition leader, Alexei Navalny, and attacked his staff. And in Kaliningrad, when a small group of demonstrators demanded the government change its foreign policy, a Cossack beat up 63-year-old protester Yevgeny Grishin. He lost 80% of his eyesight.
If the regime can't suppress civil protests through legal means, they punish the people through affiliated associations, like the Cossacks. The regime acts through them.
Why have the authorities cracked down so much?
In Russia, statehood comes first, and human rights come last. They use any means to prove the state is the most important, more important than a human.
The idea that the state is more important than the people is actually not new. Russians have long had a collective identity.
For us, the man is collective concept. We consider ourselves to be the part of the whole. So to be Russian means to share the same cultural and historical identity.
For years, TV fixture and firebrand Alexander Dugin inspired the Kremlin's ideology. He says Russia's collective identity comes from patriotism, projection of power, and respect for the ruler. Putin taps into all three, connecting today's Russia to its imperial grandeur.
Patriotism is organic, it is not artificial. Empire or state is not something additional or artificial, because it is our breath, our skin, our organic way of life.
Today's Kremlin uses that patriotism to try and unite the population and convince them only a powerful state can protect them from enemies. Enemy number one, the US.
America is on the brink of a revolution.
Dugin and the Kremlin accuse the US of humiliating Russia by expanding NATO to Russia's borders and supporting revolutions in former Soviet states and satellites. Dugin advocates fighting back by attacking the West with asymmetric war.
You talk about introducing geopolitical disorder, actively supporting dissident movements, extremism, racist, sectarian groups. This seems much more than just
exactly as you do. It's exactly what you are supporting separatist group, you're supporting any kind of nationalism, including Russian nationalism that is against Putin. My words are the mirror of what you are doing. It is mirror, and you are frightened so much because you are doing the same thing against us.
In Ukraine, that philosophy was weaponized. In eastern Ukraine, Russia aids local separatists who fight against the Ukrainian government that's pro-Western. And in 2014 in Crimea, Russia helped install separatist leaders who rushed through a referendum that led to Crimea's annexation.
Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin.
The day of annexation, Putin gave a speech combining religion, patriotism, and imperial history. He said the West had been subjugating Russia, and Russia was finally demanding respect.
If you compress the spring all the way to its limit, it will snap back hard. Russia is an independent, active participant in international affairs. Like other countries, it has its own national interests that need to be taken into account and respected.
It is impossible to overstate how transformative eastern Ukraine and here Crimea have been in recent Russian memory. After the Crimea annexation, Putin's popularity spiked to nearly 90%. Russians told pollsters that suddenly they felt like a superpower again.
And Russians all over the country mobilized. That's Denis Solomon in 2014, fighting in eastern Ukraine. He's a former soldier who was working a mid-management retail job when he quit and crossed the border.
Now, we hear that behind us. There's an intense battle. Mortars and shells are raining in our direction.
Solomon went to war because of that collective Russian identity. He believed the Ukrainian government was attacking ethnic Russians.
Those people who were under fire, I identified them as Russian people who needed protection by those who can at least hold a weapon.
What was it about them that you felt, I need to help them?
Those are the people with the same culture as mine, the same language, the same worldview.
He was convinced of that by propaganda. In May 2014, dozens of pro-Russian separatists died in Odessa, Ukraine.
It probably became the pivotal moment. There was a lot of information about how people were simply getting beaten and killed.
Russian media exaggerated the attack, even using an actress to play a victim. We know she was an actress because she appeared in unrelated pro-Russian stories as three entirely different people. That disinformation campaign convinces the Kremlin's critics the new Russian identity is manufactured, a product of deception and repression. Sometimes that repression shows up in masks, guns, and camouflage. Those are special forces surrounding 66-year-old Ilmi Umarov in the jacket and jeans. Umarov is a leader of the Tatars, a Muslim minority in Crimea. He and other Tatars fight the Russian annexation. In response, many Tatars have been jailed on questionable charges, and Umarov was thrown into a local insane asylum.
So this all together we call one big act of intimidation. The purpose is to silence some and keep others ignorant, turn them into zombies so they think the same thing. These are the necessary conditions in order for the people to be loyal to their government.
But do you acknowledge that that is the majority of the population who feels that way?
Of course. We can't say that this is a stupid population or stupid people. They're just living in a constellation of fear, and the propaganda machine rolls over them like a steamroller.
Umarov may accuse Putin of manipulating the population, but under Putin, Russia has revitalized the majority religion, brought back historic traditions, and projects power. So until there's an alternative, he's considered the creator and will remain the caretaker of the new Russian identity. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Nick Schifrin in Krasnodar, Russia.
And we continue our series Inside Putin's Russia tomorrow, examining the use of propaganda by the state. And you can hear more from special correspondent Nick Schifrin on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/newshour.